Absolutely right. Let's talk about the council dilemma that is continuing in Tshwane. It's getting very messy and it's also very difficult to follow. So we know, of course, the city has been without a permanent mayor for over a month now. Here's part one of the issue. Gauteng's acting Cogta MEC, it's Faith Maziboko, has written to the Tshwane Council Speaker demanding answers on the mayorship battle. And now former Action SA councillor turned United African Transformation leader, it's Abel Tau, is now calling for even more action. Let's talk about what Abel Tau is actually wanting here, having written to the Gauteng Premier Panyaza Lesufi. Good morning to you, Mr. Tau. I appreciate your time. So administration, I see, is the request or the demand. You tell me, why go to this step? What is that going to achieve? Why administration?
Good morning, Gareth, and good morning to viewers at home. Look, I think we have definitely written to Panyaza as well as the acting Cogta MEC to say we believe that the city must be placed under administration and invoke Section 139. The reason is very simple. If you look at the status of the city right now with the Demling AG report, as well as you look at the fact that the adjustment budget hasn't been passed up until now, and the current leadership crisis that beset the city. But not only that, if you look at the track record over the past 6-7 years of service delivery, especially in township, you then realize that currently there is no leadership. There is a vacuum in the city of Tshwane, and only Province can be the hope for the residents of the city of Tshwane at this current stage. If you look at the morale of the staff in the city, it's at an all-time low. If you look at collection, at an all-time low, because the morale of the rate players is also down. And really, if there's anything that needs to be done, it needs to be done now before it's too late, I believe.
So just for the benefit of viewers, Abel, who don't necessarily follow politics that closely, and what an administration of the city would actually mean, who then takes control, who then makes these decisions, and hopefully, to your point, Abel, is able to change all the concerns you just raised. How does the administration work exactly?
Look, Gareth, basically what happens is that then this council, according to the Systems Act, is the executive authority of the city. And therefore, if it fails to dispense constitutional obligations as envisaged by the Constitution, then the provincial government can then step in using Section 139, and basically they'll appoint an administrator who would be a lead administrator. You would almost see that person as the mayor of the city, and then they'll bring a team of administrators who would then be seen as almost the executive, but within them, they carry the same powers that council has. And then they can obviously then make the decisions that need to be made in order for us to turn the situation around in the city. And I think that's very, very important. Chief amongst those is the appointment of Section 56 managers, who are very, very critical, some of whom have not been appointed to now. I know that the city does not have a CFO, the city does not have a permanent chief of police. With all the protests and everything, literally the city is held ransom in a state where it cannot, enforce laws and bylaws because of a lack of leadership at the top. And I think it's unfortunate and it's unfair that we should allow a capital city to deteriorate to the point that it is, notwithstanding the service delivery issues. I mean, it's potholes everywhere in townships. People in Hammanskraal, the water is still an issue. You look at the Eskom issue where we are unable to pay Eskom on time, water cuts in the city. I mean, really, if there was ever any time that the city needed to go into administration so that we fix these endemic problems and finally we can turn things around. And what is even worse is the fact that if you had seen with the appointment or with the election of Dr. Makwarela, who has just left or been disgraced, you would realize that the city, one of the things that it went through is that the current mayoral candidate from the DA or the coalition that was running the city does not even have the confidence of its own caucus. But what's even worse is that they themselves, the DA, don't have their house in order, in that they don't have confidence in anyone who's in that caucus. And therefore, when you have such a huge leadership crisis besetting those who are leading and those who feel they can lead the city, it can only mean that our problems are going to deepen, and therefore we believe that we need to save the capital city and save it now.
And I was about to ask you about this. Administration, I get a sense that while it might fix this issue at the moment, do you believe, Mr. Tau, that it's a long-term solution? Because eventually, hopefully, the city will come out of administration. We're going to plunge headfirst back into coalition governance, which doesn't seem to be working in the city. So how do you fix that problem? Administration is a bit like a plaster with some Dettol. It might take away all the damage, but when you get back to coalition governance, that's where this seems to fall over.
Yes, that's where there seems to be a problem. And I think that during the time when there's administration, one of two things can happen. I do think that one of the things that we've learned when we went to court and Justin Mlambo made it clear to say councillors are in fact there given a duty by the electorate. And when they are there, as much as there is what we call a party line, but they are councillors, they need to do their work in council. And I think what we've seen in the city of Tshwane undermines that very principle. So hopefully, while we are in administration, parties will then get to understand that they would allow their councillors to exercise their duty in council of voting for what they think is best. And over and above that, then if that cannot be the panacea, because the coalition in Tshwane is really on a knife edge. I do think that apart over and above that, if needs be, the city needs to go through a 90-day by-election, and hopefully we can see a set of different results. And for sure, there definitely can be a set of different results because the electorate sees things better now. I mean, Tshwane has been in turmoil for the longest of time, and I think that residents of Tshwane have a different view of what they need to see happening in their city. And I'm quite confident that given a chance, they will choose differently.